When the city of Albuquerque completely revamped its zoning rules a few years ago, it was praised for getting rid of a complicated system that residents have complained about for years. The new system was supposed to be easier for everyone to understand, more efficient, and conducive to spurring economic development. But folks who live in the historic neighborhoods that ring the downtown core say they fear the new code will destroy the charm and character they love. And the concerns don't end there, as correspondent Gwyneth Dolan learned when she sat down with representatives from the Historic Neighborhoods Alliance.
I am here today with a group of folks from the Historic Neighborhoods Alliance. Thank you all for being with us. Diana Dorn-Jones, I want to start with you. You're concerned that the city, in trying to simplify some regulations and spur economic development, has moved forward with a new zoning code that isn't fair to people in these historic neighborhoods. The city says they just want to make things better. Do you think they could actually make things worse?
They could make things worse. I think it's two issues. One is the city changing the zoning code in a way that will impact our neighborhoods, and probably not the best of ways. But the biggest issue is if the city continues to go down the path of not including the community in these major decisions, like the independent ordinance, the new zoning codes, like the art project, then we're not headed in a good place as our city chooses to grow and to bring young people here, retain young people, and keep the residents in the area that have been in the neighborhood historically. So we're very concerned about just inclusion or lack of it.
And you mentioned things could go badly. One of the elements of the new zoning plan would allow for high density housing in neighborhoods like the South Broadway neighborhood where you live. What would change in your neighborhood if high density housing, that's apartments, what would change if that were allowed?
Well, it's about home ownership in that regard, and then the responsibility that one takes for one's property. I use an example. Over 25 years ago, the South Broadway neighborhood won National Neighborhood of the Year, and we were addressing crime prevention, actually open-air drug dealing. And we were being pretty successful at it because it was a resident-driven process. At the same time, other neighborhoods, particularly I would say the Trumbull-La Mesa area, now the International District, they were doing the same thing. And what they found to be very different in terms of outcomes is they had high-density development in their neighborhood. There was a lack of sense of pride of ownership because these units were owned by absentee landlords. Oh. It made a difference when you have landlords, when the landlords live in the neighborhood, when people own their property, or they've been longtime renters, for example. So in South Broadway, you have like maybe 50% ownership, 50% rental. It's about the housing stock. It is single-family dwelling. There's very little high-density units that are over 12 units of apartment buildings. So it's easier to have responsible parties working with you as you're trying to address issues of crime and trying to develop your neighborhood.
So you're saying in these, that the kind of high density you're talking about means people who are in these apartments for not as long as folks who maybe rent houses or bigger apartments, and so they're literally and figuratively less invested in the neighborhood. How would that change the character of the place where you grew up?
Well, when you live in a place and you have a sense of ownership or a sense of belonging, because I don't really want to stress ownership. It's okay for people to be rental. Housing is housing, and so shelter is shelter, and that's important. But if you're living in a 12-story unit or even a 6-story unit where there's no way in which the community, you can come together as a community and build community around that and build neighbors and be connected to other neighbors, it makes a difference. So it's about the kind of housing one puts in the neighborhood. Our neighborhood has a lot of opportunities, and all of our neighborhoods have a lot of opportunities for infill. Mm-hmm. Vacant lots for single family, smaller duplexes, fourplexes have been that we would like to have developed. I'm not sure that's the idea that we have in our that the new zoning code has for us. I think it's higher density, and it's going to make a difference in how we communicate among ourselves and how we organize ourselves as neighborhoods.
And I just want to interject real quick. I think it's about who benefits and who doesn't, right? Because if you look at a lot of the affordable housing that they've done recently, the city, MFA's policy for the federal tax credits that a lot of developers get is based on cost containment. So I interpret that in terms of regular people's language is how many poor people can we squeeze into the smallest amount of space so we can maximize our profits. So at the end of the day, who's really benefiting? The developers are the ones who are benefiting, right? So, and if you look at New Mexico and specifically Bernalillo County and the city of Albuquerque, people always talk about the negative socioeconomic indicators, but no one ever talks about our positive socioeconomic indicators. For example, home ownership, right? Because of the concept of land tenure, we as New Mexicans have high home ownership rates. And that's important when we're talking about asset building and wealth creation, right? So that's some of our concerns with a lot of this affordable housing that really, at the end of the day, if you really talk to people who live in some of those apartments, it really isn't even really affordable for them.
Bianca, I was going to ask you, because you live in Wells Park, and we've seen some of this infill that Diana has been talking about. We've seen a lot of change in that neighborhood in the past 10 years. What do you think is going right with changes in Wells Park recently?
So my husband and I, we purchased our home 13 years ago, and we were very specific about where we wanted to live in terms of what street, because we were going to have kids, which we do. We have 2 little ones, right? And when we moved into the neighborhood, fortunately, many of our active neighbors who've lived there for generations developed the Wells Park and Sawmill Community Sector Development Plan, right? And so that was 20 years ago. And what you see today, what our neighbors had envisioned, what our elders had envisioned within Sawmill and Wells Park is what you see today on Mountain Road. You see the revitalization of economic development of small mom and pop owned businesses, the Golden Crown Panaderia, Cocina Azul, you look at Sawmill. All of that was the vision of our communities coming together and identifying what they wanted. So the sector plans were the only opportunity for our neighborhoods to really engage of what type of economic development and community development they wanted to see. So that's where you see all the beautiful things that are happening within Wells Park and Sawmill. But unfortunately, when the city decided to write the zoning codes, they said that there was too many sector plans and it was confusing. So we're going to do away with the sector plans, and we're going to decide which policies and zoning we're going to incorporate into the IDO.
You think they threw out the baby with the bathwater?
Yes.
Sector plans happen to be the only resident-driven planning document.
Yeah.
And
it
so
incorporates the people who live there.
So basically, when you eliminate it, you eliminate the voice of the community,
Yeah.
the neighborhoods.
Loretta, I wanted to ask you, you're from Martineztown there on the other side of downtown. You know, we've seen a lot of change along Mountain Road in those areas, and then south of there in the Country Club neighborhood, just over the past few years, all of these new shops and there's a pizza place, and you can get beer and you know, all this stuff. It has really changed the face of that part of Central Avenue. We haven't seen that much change like that on the east side of downtown. What would you like to see in your neighborhood? Is it going to look like Mountain Road? Do you want it to look more like the Country Club neighborhood? What do you want?
We want to keep the character of our area, the small single-family dwellings. We want to continue to support the institutions that are already existing, that we've already invested in. We have millions of dollars in our schools, Longfellow, Albuquerque High. We put a lot of money into them, and they're struggling to have. I talked to the principal at Longfellow to keep enough children in the schools, and so so that's what we want to see, that more housing is built. I participated with Greater Albuquerque Housing Partnership to provide single-family housing at High and Cordero, and the students from UNM looked at the area and designed the homes so that they would blend in with the character of the neighborhood. You'll see that in Edo, they don't blend in with the single-family dwellings that are there. They're out of character. And so we want to make sure they're in character, and we want to make sure that there's families that are living there.
A lot of those houses in Edo and heading down towards South Broadway are, you know, this Victorian railroad era stuff, but Martineztown has a different character. It's older in many ways, right? How would you describe that area for people who haven't been there, between downtown and the freeway, you know, along Lomas and
It was, my mom is Martinez, so it's named after her family. So we have 6th generation living there. I own the home where my dad was born in the house, so there's a lot of history there. Every year we celebrate the fiesta for San Ignacio, so people come from all over and say, I used to live in Martinez Town, this is where I lived, and talk about how this was a special place for them. And then this Thursday, we've been celebrating for 13 years, having a trick-or-treat Halloween event. So the walk from San Ignacio, which has been an institution, it's already 103 years old, to Second Presbyterian Church that's been there for like, I think 150, I forget how long they've been there. And so we connect with both churches and have the children do a safe walk. And that started off from 50 years of dealing with flooding, that we decided, what are we going to do positive in the neighborhood? And we've continued that tradition.
I just want to interject for a minute too, and I think the topic of the discussion too is that Martinez Town hasn't even been afforded the chance to kind of envision what they would like to see for economic development, because since the 1950s, the city of Albuquerque has inappropriately zoned them, right? You had this historic community with acequias running through it, these beautiful family members who were living there, and then the city came in and zoned them for industry and light manufacturing, which totally changed and displaced a lot of people, which totally changed the dynamic. There's no more acequias there. You see a lot of light manufacturing industry that's taking over that community. So they've been so busy over the many years fighting the city of Albuquerque in terms of being treated differently based on being a working class community and mostly a Chicano Hispanic community, that they haven't even had the time to envision what they would like to see, right? And that's one of the issues with the IDEO and with the comprehensive plan.
They haven't had a chance to do the sector development planning
Right.
that they should do, and that's a shame, because they're one of the oldest neighborhoods in this entire state.
Robert,
They're still waiting for their sector development plan. So I think, like, to go back to the IDO, the new zoning codes, like there's a long history of displacement. The Westgate neighborhood is actually a very good example of how that happened with urban renewal in the 70s. So in a lot of ways, the new zoning codes are really kind of a cycling back, kind of full circle to what that was, and we're really just playing out what we've done historically with historic neighborhoods with the new zoning codes. And so we have to do better in terms of engaging our communities so that they are driven, that our processes and our policies at a city level are driven by our communities in a lot of ways.
well, let me play devil's advocate for 1 minute. You know, there are people who will say, well, if you want to be involved, be involved. You know, go to the meeting, do the thing. What's wrong with that idea?
So I'm glad you asked that question, because
Good point.
community engagement, whenever we hear about community engagement, everyone always says it's so difficult. But the truth is, it doesn't have to be. But one of the reasons why we create all these weird artificial barriers. So for instance, whenever we create ads for public meetings, they usually go out in a small little ad in the back of the newspaper, and who reads newspapers anymore, unfortunately? So, I mean, I know I still do too,
Paper.
but they're usually in small little ads with small little print in the back of a paper, and no one's going to go for that. And so, and oftentimes the language is prohibitive, it's exclusive, and it's a little dull. So I'll use an example. So St. Paul, Minneapolis did this pop-up meeting to get their community involved in a project, and they utilized the traditional form where they put an ad in the back of the paper and asked for 3 questions for a project. And then they refurbished a popsicle truck and said, we're going to ask the same 3 questions and send out you get a free popsicle if you answer those questions. You can guess which one fared better.
Well, I'll answer 3 questions for a Paletta any day.
Right, exactly. So it doesn't have to be that difficult. We mentioned this earlier. Like you can put ads in or questions in your property taxes. You can partner with certain agencies to make it a little bit more.
If the city wants to, if the city wants to really engage the community and not repeat the mistakes of the past, they've got to take the time to do it. So you either do the work on the front end or you deal with all the stuff that falls out on the back end. So we encourage them early on in the process how to reach out to community. We do organizing in our community, so we kind of know how to reach out. And it can't be that little ad in the back of the paper. Meetings have to be held at a time when people who cannot come, have the privilege to come to a meeting at noon or to come to a meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning, they can't do it. And then sometimes meetings held outside of their own area. No provisions for daycare, for child support, or anything like that. So if we really want to be a city that cares and a city and we're one Albuquerque, I really would like to see us act like one Albuquerque, act like a family, inform each other. We're not going to agree on everything, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't tackle those difficult subjects and try to be the best that we can be at what we do.
And I just want to jump in here real quick, too, because I think it's about racial equity. That's why we're here today, right? Because the city owes own data through the development of the comprehensive plan and the new zoning codes, the IDO, the Integrated Development Ordinance. Their own data shows that the participation rates of Hispanics and Latinos and Chicanos was far below their population rates in the city of Albuquerque, and that could be said of Asian Pacific Islanders, African Americans, and Native Americans. They had an event at the community meeting at the Tractor Brewery where there was 0% participation from Native youth. Now, I don't know of any event that I've ever heard of at the Tractor Brewery where there's 0% Native American participation.
So they should have worked harder.
Well, they should have. I think what they should have done is engaged community leaders like ourselves and others on how to do effective community outreach. And also, since we're talking about zoning codes, which you're dealing with laws, right, and the uses that are allowed on your property or community property, we recommended several things. One, send out notification within the county assessor's bill that we all get twice a year. Two, send out notification in our utilities bill, because not only will you capture homeowners, but you'll also capture renters. You do it for the Summerfest, and they told us, the city told us that it was too expensive to do that. We found out later on it would have only cost them $900 for them to do that. That's how much that ad is in the paper. So the reality is, by them not doing that, by not notifying us as property owners, you're perpetuating the history of the United States in terms of manifest destiny, and not providing us as Chicanos, Mexicanos, Native Americans, people of color, the opportunity to have a say in our land and what the future looks like for our communities.
Well, these are institutional practices.
Yeah,
that we've been pointing out to the city. If we're going to make a change, we have to start somewhere, and we need to start that now.
We have just a few minutes left on it, and I want to take your point into consideration and acknowledge that there's a struggle there between honoring people in these communities and engaging them and respecting them, and this parallel track of trying to very quickly demonstrate economic development, right, and what looks like improvement. You know, I lived downtown for 20 years. I still own a house there kind of between Wells Park and Martineztown. And I know that people probably drive through my neighborhood on my block and say, man, I wish they'd gentrify this, you know? I think to outsiders, it probably looks like a neighborhood that needs development. So, you know, are we saying that gentrification is the problem here, or could economic development be done right, and what does that look like?
We're not talking what we're talking about is racial inequities. We're talking about a history of racism within planning and zoning in the United States, specifically being perpetuated in New Mexico and the city of Albuquerque. Now, I don't think anyone is against economic development. All of us have been wanting. It's about our communities from Wells Park to Martineztown to San Jose to South Broadway are seeing the least amount of investment from an infrastructure perspective, right? And we're seeing the least amount of protections, because if you look at the Country Club area, they're not going to be living near a Superfund site like I am in Wells Park because of the way that they're zoned. So it's about what communities are protected and what communities aren't, which ones get investments and which ones don't, so that they can pursue economic development.
And I'd like to say how crazy the city looks at things. You know, they came and said, well, we want walkability in your neighborhoods. We had walkability in Martineztown. We didn't own cars. A few of us owned them. And what they did was they widened Lomas. They opened up Odilio, where homes were established there. And then we had grocery stores next to us. We had 5. We named them by first name. And those owners lived in the neighborhood, so they were invested in that neighborhood. We would go to Dan's stores or to Manuel's or to Archuletas down on Mountain and Broadway to get whatever needs we needed, right? So how does it benefit us when you're talking about economic development? We want those little grocery stores that we can walk to. We want the barbershop, the hairstylist that we can walk to. So we're telling the mayor now, our neighborhood is saying, Mayor, we want to meet with you. We want that property on Lomas and Broadway, and we want to show you how to develop it so that it meets our needs. That's what we're saying.
We have just 1 minute left, and I want to ask you guys, if there are people watching who are like, wow, this is the first I've heard of this, and I live there, and I want to get involved. Like, how do they connect with folks in their neighborhood? If they're new or if they just haven't been paying attention, how do people find you?
Connect with HNA Historic Neighborhoods Alliance on Facebook. We are currently looking for donations for our legal suit with the city at this point. And I'll also say too, just to get on this, close this point around what it looks like we have to close the racial equity gap in our city, in our state. And it means that we have to talk about more inclusive zoning and more inclusive economic development. And if we were to close that, we could actually see some serious economic outputs. So Michigan is trying to work on that. They look to obtain $92 billion in economic outputs by 2050. And $4 billion of that is going to be spent on housing. That's a lot of houses. And so if we were actually to look at that here and envision a more inclusive city, then we can actually see the same kind of economic outputs here in Albuquerque.
I want to thank you all so much for being with us today to talk to us about this.
Thank you.
We should mention Robert Nelson, who was part of that conversation about Albuquerque's zoning policies, is running for city council next week. We specifically invited him here to talk about zoning issues, though, and not his campaign.